answer the question. Which one of the questions below matches the graph? So you're given a graph here, and then you have 4 options: A, B, C, and D. So based on the graph, you want to know the best of these options that tallies or matches this graph. So what we are going to do here is this. Just watch what I'm going to do. Now the first hint you'd observe in this graph is this. For a sine graph, again, for a sine graph, the sine of 0 is 0. That is, at point 0, the sine of 0 is 0. So that tells you that if you have, let's say you have your Cartesian graph like this, the sine graph always starts at the origin. It starts at the origin. So you should always start at the origin. But then what you observe here is the graph does not start at the origin. Instead, it started at a point aside the origin. Now, the only kind of function or the only kind of trigonometric function that behaves like that is the cosine function aside the sine, based on the options we have here. So it cannot be a sine. So because it can't be a sine, because we already know that the sine will start at the origin, so that crosses this and this, because you can see you have a sine there. Now, since it's a cosine function, the general form of a cosine function is y equals a cosine of omega x. A cosine of omega x. So where this a here stands for the amplitude, and this omega here is just derived from the period. So how then do we derive this? So we said a here is the amplitude. So from the graph, how do we know a, that is the amplitude? So the amplitude of the graph is just, you can see the amplitude is from here to here. This is the amplitude. That is when the graph crosses the origin. How high does it go? When it goes back to rest, how high does it blow up? When it comes back to rest, how high does it blow up? So you observe that just from here to here is going to be 3. So the amplitude is 3. So now we know what A is. Now the next thing is, how do I derive omega? Now do you recall from the formula that we know that the period of a graph, which is t, is given by 2 pi all over omega. So that's to say that if I know t, that is if I know the period, then I can find omega by doing some little manipulations here. Now how do I determine the period of the graph? You know, the period is another name for cycle. So what you'd obtain is that you have so many cycles here, and then the end of the cycle is 16 pi. Now how do I determine how many cycles I have here? It's very easy. Let's see. So I can split this graph like this. You can split this like this, and you can also split this like this, so that you can see each half of a cycle. Now when you go from here to here, this is half of a cycle. When you go here, you've completed the cycle. That's one cycle. When you go here, this is half of a cycle. When you go around again, this is 2 cycles. So that's to say 2 cycles equals 16 pi. That is what we observed. So from the graph, 2 cycles, that is 2 cycles. You know, 2 cycles, when I mean cycles, I mean period. So 2 times t equals, that's 2 periods, equals 2 pi all over omega, right? Well, sorry, I'm very sorry for what I wrote here. This is very wrong. What I meant there is this: 2t, that is 2t equals, that is 2 times the number of cycles you have, equals 16 pi. So our aim is to find t. So to find t, you divide both sides by 2. So this is going to be 8 pi. So your t is going to be 8 pi. So now since t equals 8 pi, I'm going to substitute it in here. So what you have is going to be 8 pi equals 2 pi divided by omega. Now to find omega, you're going to cross multiply. So when you cross multiply, you have omega times 8 pi equals 2 pi. So to find omega, you divide both sides by 8 pi by 8 pi. So this goes off. So pi cancels pi. 2 in 8 is going to give you 4. So this is 1 all over 4. So your omega equals 1 divided by 4. So now I have my omega and I have my a. So that tells me that my y is just going to be, so my a is 3. So this will be 3 cosine of, now my omega is 4, 1 over 4. That'll be 1 all over 4 x. So 3 cos 1 all over 4x. So this is going to be my solution, 3 cosine 1 all over 4x. So that completes the problem.